going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list Tuesday. And this was inspired in part because the first guy in this tier list, Jeremy Swayman, report came out saying that he wanted $10 million. I think that was a little exaggerated. He's probably only going to get like $8.5 to $9 million. But today I wanted to go through every single team's projected starter this season and tier list them. We got superstar, elite, good, solid, meh. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. I didn't start, by the way, my camera, you probably can't tell because I'm so small right now, but my camera for some reason is like lower quality, so that's why I didn't start just me. But we're diving into it. We're getting straight into it. And up first, we got Jeremy Swayman, and I think Jeremy Swayman, after what he did this season, kind of as the 1A in Boston, would he play like 45 games, put up like a 9-16, and then in the playoffs put up a 9-33 and single-handedly bought the Boston Bruins to the second round in 2-6 games against the Florida Panthers. I think you got to have him in elite. I can't go superstar yet until we see full seasons of him being that number one guy, but I think he's definitely an elite. Joseph Woll, solid. I mean, last season he was solid. He was good when looking at it, but he just cannot stay healthy. It's going to be massive that he can stay healthy. They do have a solid backup now in Anthony Stolarz, but until I see Joseph Woll play more than 40 games, has he even played more than like 20 games in a season? I'm not sure. He's been very good in the playoffs as well as regular season, but he's got to stay healthy. Jake Ottinger, this might surprise some people, but I'm only going to put Ottinger in good. He wasn't that good this season. He was average. He was an average starter this season, the regular season, with a 9.06. It looked like he was trending upwards, and this was really going to be his breakout year. Wasn't exactly the case. He was good for Dallas in the playoffs, but right now, I think I'm going to have Jake Ottinger. He probably would, based on who I'm going to have in good, he'd be the next guy up to elite. But right now, I'm going to put him in good. He needs to bounce back, especially behind the Dallas Stars team that is so good, that was so good last year. For him to put up the numbers that he did last year were pretty disappointing. Igor Shesterkin, superstar. After what he's done in the playoffs every single year for the New York Rangers, 2022 led them to an Eastern Conference Finals. 2023, they lost to New Jersey in the first round. He still had like a 9.29. And then this season, yet again, carried them to an Eastern Conference Finals on top of having a 9.35 in the 2022 season. By far the best goalie regular season probably of the 2020s. I'd say I take his over Linus Ullmark when looking at the team that Ullmark had in front of him. And yeah, even this season, Shesterkin was still like a 9.15. He had a bit of a rough start to the season, but overall still was a very, very elite superstar and probably the best playoff goalie that we have seen of late since Vasilevsky in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. Montembeault, solid as well. He has a longer track record by Joseph Woll. I can't bump him up to like quite good yet. He definitely could take that step this year, but I think right now you just got to throw him in solid. UPL, I'm going to probably have UPL in solid as well. He's very bipolar. To start last season, he had like an 8.92 in his first 20 games. Then he had like a 9.27 in the next 20 games. He's got to be more consistent, but I think right now you throw him in solid. Eden Hill, same thing with Joseph Woll. This guy's got to stay healthy. I'm going to put him in solid right now. He's a Stanley Cup champion, but it's going to be very interesting to see him at the Vegas Golden Knights this season. Him and Samsonov tandem is going to be interesting. Jordan Binnington, I think I might put in solid as well. Last year, he was a top 5 goalie for me. He was on my Vezina ballot, but he is way too inconsistent. So as a result, I'm going to put him in solid right now. Ullmark gets an elite when looking at what he did in 2023. On top of even last season, he had a 9.14 or a 9.15. And even back when he was on shitty Buffalo teams, he was putting up very good stats. How he's going to perform in Ottawa with that defense score going from Boston to Ottawa, it's going to be interesting, but I still think that he's definitely an elite goaltender. Tristan Jarry, he gets a lot of hate, but he has been, this season was a down year for him with a 9.03, but he has been very consistent. I believe before this season, his prior 4 seasons as a starter, he was never below a 9.09. So I'm a Tristan Jarry defender. I'm going to put him in good, but he's definitely like lower tier good. Obviously, Jake Ottinger's like the top of that tier. Jarry's more so the end of that tier. Dustin Wolf, I got to put him in meh right now. You could either have him or Dan Vladar here. He hasn't played like over 20 games. What he played last year, like 18 games. He's still a goddamn rookie. So as of right now, I think he's going to eventually be a stud. But at 23 years old, to rely on him to carry a pretty shit Flames team, he's going to have some growing pains this first season. Ilya Sorokin, I'm going to put Sorokin. I'm going to put Sorokin in elite. Yes, this was a bit of a down year, but even a down year for him was still like a 908 save percentage. On top of the 2 prior years, he had a 924 to 925. Still an elite top 10 guy. If he has another down year, I'll probably take him outside of the top 10. But considering what he did in 2022 and 2023, I think he's earned his spot as an elite guy. Stuart Skinner gets a lot of shit, but when looking at him in his rookie year, don't get me wrong, he's on a very good team. Rookie year, what did he have? He had like a 913 in 48 games or something like that. This season, very bad start to the season, but once Chris Knobloch was hired, he yet again had another low 9-10s kind of season. And in the playoffs, basically past game 4s in Edmonton Oilers series, he was fantastic for them. He won them some games. You come to mind, you think of that game 6 against the Dallas Stars where they got outshot 35-10 or something like that. Stuart Skinner, not some upper echelon goaltender, but I think at this point, you got to have him between 11 through 15. Markstrom, I'm going to also put in good. Just again, too much variability with Jacob Markstrom. One season he is Vezina level, the next he's like putting up an 892 and absolutely crapping the bed. I think he's gonna be much better in New Jersey. Maybe he'll jump up to elite, but the consistency isn't quite there for Markstrom. Lucas Dachtl, I'm going to put him in meh as of right now, but again, similarly to Wolf, he's a very young guy on not that good of a team. I think he's probably going to get more starts than Gibson. Last year, he started, I believe, 38 games and had a solid like 903, but still a young guy. I think the future's bright, but as of right now, I can't have too much faith in him. Vasilevsky, I still defend Vasilevsky. I had him as my number 4 goaltender in the NHL. I can't quite put him in superstar considering how lackluster he was this season, but I still think he's a very elite goaltender. Bobrovsky, same thing here, but he actually was fantastic this season. When looking at him in the regular season, had a 918, was a Vezina finalist, and then come playoff time, really helped the Florida Panthers win their first Stanley Cup. Decord, I'm going to put Decord in solid. He was very good this year for Seattle, but again, we don't have that long of a track record for a guy like Joey Decord. Is it one fluky season? Well, I wasn't even. He was very good for Seattle, but we're going to see this season what he's really made of. And kind of the same goes for Charlie Lindgren. I can't say Charlie Lindgren is some stud, considering before this season he was just an okay backup. He was very good. He was elite this season. He kind of carried the Washington Capitals into the goddamn playoffs. But we've seen goalies have one fantastic season and then kind of fall off. We'll see if that's the case for Charlie Lindgren. I think he will get slightly more games than Logan Thompson, considering he is the incumbent starter on the Washington Capitals. Darcy Kemper at this point, you got to have him in meh. This season, he was not good for the Washington Capitals. 890 save percentage, got his job stolen by Charlie Lindgren, and he got traded for one of the worst contracts in the NHL and PLD. So he can bounce back, but right now I think he's definitely a meh/bad. Demko, I'm going to put in elite. You're going to see, as you can probably make out by now, there's going to be 2 guys in superstar at this point. But I think Demko, you're going to go with elite. He did have a bit of a down year in 2023, but this season was easily the second best goaltender in the NHL during the regular season. Arguably could have won the Vezina if he didn't get hurt the final couple months of the season. He proved himself. I had him number 10 coming into last season after that shit season. I believed in him, and he really backed it up this year. Elvis Merzlikins, this guy came out with so much potential early on in his career, but maybe it's in part because of Columbus, but even the underlying numbers also show that he's not that good of a goaltender. He could bounce back, but I don't really see it happening that likely. Sam Ersson, same thing, kind of. Well, Sam Ersson's younger. Obviously, he was a Calder candidate this year. He looked very good when he was more so that 1B for the Philadelphia Flyers. But once Carter Hart had his legal troubles and Sam Ersson had to play a lot, it clearly got to him and he continued to kind of fall off. He's probably more so suited for a 1B or a backup slate, but he's been thrusted into this starter role by the Philadelphia Flyers. And I kind of feel bad for him because I don't think Philly's going to be very good. Cam Talbot, it's tough because he's been so bipolar. In 2023, he was shit for the Ottawa Senators. Then in 2024, he's actually very good for the LA Kings with a 915. Granted, he's going from the LA Kings defensive core to the Detroit Red Wings. I think he's solid, though. I take him over, but easily over these 5 guys. Gustafsson, I'm going to go with meh. It's looking like that 2023 season might have been a little bit of a fluke for a Philip Gustafsson. Hopefully he can bounce back for the Minnesota Wild. Between him and Fleury, their tandem's okay. It looked like one of the best tandems in 2023, and now it's like a borderline bottom 10 tandem in the NHL. Frederik Andersen is tough because when this guy is healthy, he wasn't on my top 20 because he barely played this year. I think I'm actually going to put him in good. When this guy is fully healthy, he's a very, very solid goaltender. When he came back from his blood clots, he had like a 930 in his final 12 games of the season. I'm going to put him in good. I think I'm going to No, yeah, I'm gonna leave him there. I'm gonna leave it there. When he's healthy, he is a good starter. Connor Hellebuck, superstar. Yes, he kind of shat the bed in the playoffs, but the entire Winnipeg Jets defense corps shat their beds, shat their pants, shat their pants against the Colorado Avalanche. And this guy has 2 Vezinas basically every single year. He's above a 910, great underlying goals saved above expected, top 5 seasons, and he plays 60 plus games. Absolute workhorse, absolute superstar goaltender. Saros, also an elite, bit of a down year this year with only a 906, but the 3 prior seasons, I believe he finished 6th in the Vezina during the 2021 season with a 927. Then he finished 4th. Then he finished he finished 3rd. Then he finished 4th with like a 919 and a 918. And similarly to Hellebuck, he can legitimately give you 65 games pretty easily and put up those good numbers. Mrazek, I'm going to put him in solid. When looking at Mrazek, he was actually very good on a bad Chicago Blackhawks team. Him and Brossoit could actually be a pretty solid tandem heading into next year. Vanacek, he was bad for the Devils. I'm not sure what his stats were in the San Jose Sharks, but him and Blackwood is a pretty like bottom 5 tandem. He's no longer a legit starter in the NHL. And then lastly, I'm going to go with Georgiev. I'm going to put him in solid. He was pretty bad this season. Game 1 against Winnipeg Jets, he was horrendous, but after that, he was actually pretty solid. I think he's going to bounce back and be like a 908, 910 goaltender. His first season in Colorado, he was very good, but in terms of the regular stats, advanced stats said kind of else. Said the opposite, but when looking at Georgiev, I think that he's not as bad as these guys in the bottom row. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this tier list? Let me move myself out of the way real quick. Here it is in all its glory. Who would you move up? Who would you move down? I'll be seeing the next one. Hopefully I'll figure out some of my camera so it's not as low quality. But yeah, peace.